Howdy guys, Jimmy Song here. I wanted to talk in this video about why these crypto influencer lists are kind of dumb. I know that's something that a lot of people do to get attention, and people like listicles and all that stuff. But in particular with Bitcoin, this tends to be kind of a little bit of a sore spot for me because not because I'm not on them, I'm on a bunch of them, but because it's against the entire idea of Bitcoin in the first place. Uh, what these lists are trying to do is to just sort of like give people an idea of who's in charge, right? And for like a lot of the other coins, like Litecoin, like knowing that Charlie Lee is in charge is kind of useful. And you know, Vitalik is always on these lists, and people like that. If you're only doing it for like you're doing it for the entire industry of cryptocurrencies, then maybe that makes at least a little bit of sense. But you know, those are centralized entities, and centralized entities having a person at the head of their own head at the helm totally makes sense. That's something that people should pay attention to and know about. What doesn't really make sense is trying to come up with a list for Bitcoin, and it's always confusing who's actually on these lists. Typically, they will have people like Don Tapscott, who wrote some book about blockchain being a revolution. The book doesn't make any sense. He doesn't understand what Bitcoin actually is from a technical standpoint. He just wrote a book completely in the abstract. There are other books, like other authors like Nathaniel Popper or Paul Vigna or whatever, and they're decent writers and everything else, and they report on things, but they're not necessarily influencers, right? Like they just report on stuff. So it's a little strange for me to read lists like that and see names like those people. The other thing is Bitcoin is decentralized. It's supposed to not be about like brand name people or something like that. It's about what the technology is supposed to do, and it's not supposed to have somebody at the helm. And all of these people that say blockchain, not Bitcoin, well, they don't have any influence in Bitcoin. Don Tapscott can say whatever the hell he wants about Bitcoin, but very few people that, at least that I know in the Bitcoin industry, listen to what he says or thinks that he has any influence over how Bitcoin is going to be. And you know, Bitcoin is the one use case that we've all found for blockchain. It's kind of ironic that all of these like blockchain people think that they have so much influence over the whole thing, but we haven't really found a use case that really makes sense for blockchain other than Bitcoin, and that's because it is very expensive. I go through that in another video. So in a sense, it's kind of this weird thing where a lot of these lists try to incorporate a lot of the blockchainy, altcoiny stuff into the list, when in fact, like, Bitcoin is the only thing that really has proven itself. And even within Bitcoin, a lot of these people don't understand what's actually influential and what's actually not. So in a large sense, they're misguided. But even if there were a decent list, that list would change quite often over time. And that's because, if we did the survey like 5 or 6 years ago, and we listed the people that were influential, people like Jeff Garzik, Mike Hearn, and Gavin Andreessen would be on there. They're obviously not really that influential in Bitcoin anymore, largely because they rage quit like Mike Hearn did, or went off and did their own projects like Jeff Garzik did, or were completely discredited with the whole Craig S. Wright thing like Gavin. So you have to be careful about that stuff, right? Like, the whole idea of Bitcoin is that you get self-sovereignty. You are the one that decides, and all of these lists to me are trying to centralize that more. And I don't like that. I want Bitcoin to stay decentralized. I want everyone to have self-sovereignty over their own money. So anyway, that's why I think these are kind of stupid, kind of dangerous in many ways, and I encourage you not to give them that much attention. Anyway, thanks for listening. Tell me what you think in the comments. This song is done.